Welcome to the intro training exercises for Sharperlight's Excel add-in on Business Central. This is exercise 3. Please follow the video carefully, and if needed, use the PDF listed within the description for further information. Exercise 3 has 3 parts, A to C, with part A showing a table formula, part B showing suppress 0 rows, and part C showing list formula and subqueries. This exercise continues on the same workbook from the previous exercise. Open the sheet for X3A. Exercises 3A to 3C are examples of how to use a summary report query to return the current month and year to date balance for all income statement accounts. Previously, we used only value formulas from the Sharperlight Excel add-in, which have a reporting mode of aggregation, since they return only a single value. For exercise 3A, we will look at table formulas, which generate an Excel table directly below the formula. As it generates a table and outputs more than a single value, the reporting mode is set to summary, but we can also use detailed report if we need to. If we select the cell C6, we should be able to see what a table formula looks like. The first parameter is the query name. This is what you should find in Query Manager. The second parameter is the table name, as table formulas generate an Excel table, and you will be able to find it in the Excel table lookup. Any other parameters in the formula are then cell or named references for the query filters, so our query should be using the def company and def date named cells. Double click on the cell C6 to open our query definition. What you should see is a query on the GL entry table outputting GL account numbers and names, and then the amount field for both current month and year to date, of which are filtered columns. If you don't know what a filtered column is, you can refer to the Business Central Exercise 6 video or read the Exercise 6 on the PDF training guide. But briefly, a filtered column is a column that can be specific about which filters apply to it. So our current month output is filtered by the current month filter range, and our year-to-date output is filtered by our year-to-date filter range. Close the query and we will show how you can drill within the Excel sheet on the output report. Right-click on a cell in the table and select Drill Down Summary. Here we can define a summary drill down. We can drag or double-click on customer group code to add it to our outputs. Then click OK to see our summary drill down. You should see the totals for current month and year to date matches with the row we drilled on. To inspect the query behind the drill, you can right-click and Edit Query. This is particularly useful if you want a better look at the query definition, or if you'd like to copy it. Go to the sheet X3B and you should see a year-to-date balance report against the GL actual and budget table. Select the cell C6 and you should see this is another Sharperlight table formula. Double-click the cell C6 to open up the query definition. From here you can see the query is using the GL actual and budget table. We have a pseudo field for period, which is referencing the cell B2. The budget ledger filter references the cell B3. We have amount fields, which have been renamed and are filtered columns, with appropriately matching filter ranges for both date periods and whether or not the output is based on the actual or budget amount. Let's preview the query, and you should notice that some rows have zeros for all amount columns. It is not always desirable to have rows with zeros. Go back to the query and in the Filters pane over the Table filter, you can double-click to open the options on the query. From here, we can tick the box for Suppress 0 rows, which should remove rows with all zeros. Click OK and preview the query again, and you should see the rows no longer appear. Go to the sheet X3C and we should see a report that looks very similar to the one from 3B. Select the cell C6 and you should see that this is a list formula from the Sharperlight Excel add-in. List formulas paste directly into the worksheet instead of generating an Excel table. The other main difference is that list formulas support subtotaling, output, and expression formatting in Excel. So the formatting is based off the Query Builder formatting instead of Excel's standard formatting. Double-click on the cell C6 to open the query definition. The query from 3B and 3C output the same data. However, in this query, we have outputs that are subqueries for some of the amount columns. A subquery is a child query that can extract data independently of the parent query, and its data then can form part of the parent query. Subqueries are not limited to the same table or data model as the parent query, and you can choose to use output values or filter parameters to pass into the subquery. So for example, the current actual subquery would be a query that pulls the appropriate amount filtered by the current period, and where the budget ledger is B022V1. There is a difference in query execution time between the queries defined in exercise 3B and 3C, and it is because 3B is a single query hitting the database engine, whereas 3C uses a query to return the geo account number and name, and then subqueries each line for the current actual, current budget, year-to-date actual, and year-to-date budget balances. As we want to add a subtotal for our list formula, we will add an additional output for geo account number and change its description to section. Double-click on section to go to the options window, and in the General tab, change its visibility to hidden. Then, under the Functions tab, change the text options to segment, and set the start position and length to 1. As we want the subtotal to be on this new field, go to the Sorting and Grouping tab, select the Output section, and then add it to the sorting pane. Then highlight it and change its grouping option to Basic. If you are unfamiliar with sorting and grouping, you can look at the training guide PDF, or look at the video for Business Central Training Exercise 7. You should see in red that Excel tables do not support grouping options. However, as our query definition is using a list formula, it is supported. Click OK and OK again. You should now see the subtotals appear. This concludes the training for Exercise 3 for the Sharperlight Excel add-in on Business Central. For more information and in-depth explanations, please refer back to the training PDF.